you aren't from Japan, then getting to Tokyo, you'll most likely have to fly halfway around the world to get here on a very, very long flight. There are so many amazing things to do and see in the city of Tokyo alone, and this marks my third trip coming to this city. Now, I will assume the baseline that if you clicked on this video that you like theme parks, and Japan doesn't have a short supply of those. It has everything from Universal Studios in Osaka to a pineapple park in Okinawa, and there's bound to be something for everyone. But how does Disney stack up? And if you have a short amount of time in Japan, is it worth burning one of those days to just go to DisneySea? Let's discuss. So if you want to get to Disney, it's in its own area in Tokyo. So to get here, you want to take the JR line to the Miyahama stop. From here, there's a monorail that goes around both of the two parks and has 4 stops total. The monorail has its own ticket, so think carefully how many times you're going to ride it and leave this area. So the multi-pass is typically your best option, especially for your price. For example, we arrived here the day before we went to the park and spent 1 day at the park and left on the 3rd day, which means the best monorail ticket would have been a 3-day pass. If you want to stay as close to the park as possible, there are numerous hotels located here, and us personally, we stayed at the Sheraton Grand Tokyo Bay Hotel, which is only 1 stop away on the monorail to DisneySea. Now, the heart of the theme park is inspired by water around the world, and the park is broken up into 7 basic areas. Starting in the center, the biggest, most iconic part of the park is a volcano that's part of the mysterious island. This area is home to one of the best rides in the park in my opinion, and that's Journey to the Center of the Earth. And this is the first ride that we rode once we got inside the park, as in the middle of the day can have over a 2-hour wait. This ride has you descend into the center of the earth, seeing all sorts of creatures, and ends up with a really fast drop in the darkness, much like a roller coaster. I love this ride so much that we ended up riding it a second time later in the day when the wait time got down to 45 minutes. And the other ride in this area is the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is kind of a slow, dark ride inside of a submarine that 6 people ride inside. But to be honest, that ride gave me motion sickness and I would just skip it moving forward. Right next to the mysterious island across the bridge is the Lost River Delta. And that is home to the Indiana Jones ride that takes inspiration from the 4th movie, The Crystal Skull. And just like the other Indiana Jones rides that exist at other Disney parks, it's a Jeep-based adventure ride. Also, a pro tip, this ride does have a single rider's lane that we did when we rode this ride for the 2nd time later in the afternoon, and we were basically able to walk onto the ride as the normal line had over an hour wait. So it's totally worth to find that entrance and use the single rider's line if you don't mind riding the ride by yourself. The other big ride in this area is Raging Spirits, which is a roller coaster, but unfortunately when we were here it was closed for repairs, so we couldn't ride it on the day we were here. Moving on to the Port of Discovery, this is home to the Aquatopia, which is a water version of Autotopia, and each cart takes a slightly different ride through the water that includes spinning and splashing and all that good stuff. Right next to Aquatopia is the Final Nemo ride, where you get on board a craft and get shrunk down to the size of a fish and follow Nemo and its friends through the water. Also between the area of Aquatopia and the American waterfront is an area modeled after Cape Cod, but this area doesn't have any rides, it just has foods. So if you keep on going towards the American waterfront, you'll see 2 distinct structures. The first is a boat that looks similar to the Titanic that's actually called the SS Columbia that is a whole dining experience. Then immediately to the left of that, you'll see the Tower of Terror. If you've never experienced the Tower of Terror, it's a ride that takes you up to the very top and then drops you down and lifts you up about 3 times before finishing. Right next to the Tower of Terror is Toy Story Mania, which is the longest line of any ride, no matter what time of day it was. The only way we were able to get through this ride line in under 2 hours was to go during the water show that's late at night, and as soon as we finished, the line went straight back up to 2+ hours to get through it. This ride has several Toy Story themed games where you shoot at digital images and earn points that are totaled over the several mini games that you play. It's one of my favorite rides. I just wish I had a shorter line to get through it and I could do it more than once. Below the American waterfront is a Mediterranean harbor that is home to the gondola ride that goes on a man-made lake that's in front of the volcano. But be forewarned, it does close down earlier, especially once the sun starts to go down. So make your plans accordingly if you want to do this ride. Also in that area is Soarin', a ride that takes you across the globe on a 3D screen, but it also has a super long wait. It's probably the most popular ride in the whole park, and we skipped it since we've done that ride at other parks, specifically at Epcot. Now, one of the coolest and most immersive areas of the park has to be the Mermaid Lagoon, which is modeled after the Little Mermaid movies. It has an outdoor roller coaster called Flounder's Flying Fish Coaster that is super quick and fun to ride. But if you then descend into Triton's Kingdom, this is where the immersion really begins. The main purpose of this place is to cater the rides towards smaller and younger demographic, with rides like the Jumpin' Jellyfish and the Blowfish Balloon Race. The last area in DisneySea is the Arabian Coast, which is inspired by Agrabah and the Aladdin movies. Here, the first ride we did was Sinbad's Storybook Voyage, and again, we just walked right onto this ride because it's pretty much the first thing in the morning. The truth about this ride is it's really basically the same ride as It's a Small World, but with Sinbad as the storyline instead. Fun fact about Chandu, the little tiger that follows Sinbad around, it was added to the ride in 2007 when the ride was rebranded to its current state due to it being one of the most unpopular rides in the park. And since then, this tiger cub has basically become the most popular merchandising item in the park. The other ride in this area is Jasmine's Flying Carpet that spins around in a circle, similar to like the Dumbo ride, and you can control the carpet going up or down during that whole spin. Also in this area, something that's pretty cool is a 3D show featuring the genie from Aladdin, where he first introduces the story by this talking snake. And just be forewarned, since it is in Japan, the whole thing is in Japanese, but you can totally get the gist of the story as it goes through. The other 2 rides that connect throughout the park is a transit streamer line that can be picked up in the Lost River Delta, the Mediterranean Harbor, and the American Waterfront, and they go in a set circle. Second is the DisneySea Electric Railway that can be picked up in the American Waterfront and goes to and from the Port of Discovery. Now, if all that walking around and exploring the park makes you hungry, there are so many places to eat, including so many different types of popcorn. But the tastier option is to eat your way through all the different flavored churros. The first one that I had was a sweet potato churro located in the Mysterious Island, and it's definitely a 10 out of 10 and totally would recommend. Then in the American Waterfront, there was a creme brulee churro and a Liberty Sundae that had a sweet soy sugar churro that came with ice cream and sweet bean mochi. I don't think I've ever had a flavored churro like that before. Also in this area, we got later in the day was a beer cocktail that comes with fresh chunks of mango, and for some reason was topped with pink sprinkles, and it was really refreshing and really good and fruity. I definitely would recommend this beer. We ate lunch in the Arabian Coast at Kasbah and chose it because of the vegetarian curry that came with a big scoop of rice and a big piece of naan. And most importantly, it's pretty much the only vegetarian meal in the whole park. Also here at the Sultan's Oasis, we got my favorite dessert of the whole day, which was the Sultan's Sundae that came with ice cream, mangoes, and a churro covered in a chai spice sugar. So good. And the last thing I had was this tipo torta, which is a fried dough with chocolate and orange sauce in the center of it. Now when you're in the park, you'll never really know which character you'll see and when and where. So here are a couple of the characters that I saw. First up was The Incredibles, which I saw when I was near Aquatopia, just kind of waiting in line. Then in the American Waterfront, a whole bunch of characters did show up. So for example, the first one was Scrooge, and then in the area in front of the Tower of Terror was Daisy Duck, followed by Pluto, Donald Duck, who just happened to have a huge entourage. And then while eating the Sultan Sundae, both Princess Jasmine and Aladdin randomly showed up and had a huge crowd around them. But by far, the best thing that happened, which has never happened to me before, was I actually saw Captain Jack Sparrow crossing the bridge in the American Waterfront when I was leaving Cape Cod, and actually had a whole character interaction with him specifically as a character. We had a whole chat about being a pirate and everything like that. So let me know what you think. Did this convince you to go to Disney Sea? For me personally, I didn't go here until my 3rd trip to Tokyo, but I did try to get it on my 2nd trip, but couldn't get reservations. So if you do want to go, be sure to book it ahead of time to make sure you get a guaranteed park entrance. And if you want to see another video on a knockoff version of Disney that happens to be in Seoul, check out the video on the screen now. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future adventures, and I'll see you again soon.